Hi, my fellow Gooners, humans, and everything in between. You're now tuned back into Concourse TV. I'll be doing a season review of the performance of the owners, all the way down to the physios. Let's get into it. Let's start off with the owners, KSC. They performed a full takeover in 2018. Since then, I cannot fault them. They have backed this manager with their mouths and their money to the tune of £1 billion plus, and the project has come to fruition, so all I can give them is a 10 out of 10, to be honest. Now let's review Andrea Berta, the technical director's job, and how he's performed over the course of the last season. He's had 2 windows available to him. He's only used one to actually bring in incomings, which was the summer, and in the January window, the only bit of business we did was sending Ethan Nwaneri out on loan to Marseille. I have to give him a solid 8 out of 10. Now let's move on to the man himself, Mikel Arteta, the head coach of Arsenal Football Club. What can I say? He's had a bit of an up and down season. I'll give you the rating first, which I will say 8 out of 10, and I will give you the reasons why. Let's start off with the Carabao Cup. When I saw the lineup, I had no qualms with the lineup. I was happy with it overall, but prior to the game, I said a week, even 2 weeks before, do not start Kepa in that final in goal. What transpired was Kepa made the mistake, which led to the goal, which led to ultimately our downfall and us losing the Carabao Cup, which could have actually sent our season into a tailspin, in my opinion. So that's why I've marked it down a little bit, down to 8 out of 10, despite him winning the Premier League. Then I go on to the FA Cup. Now I watched Kepa make a howler, watched him struggle against City, and then what do? You make the same mistake again and start him in the FA Cup against Southampton, I think it was, and we lost that game as well. So unless there was an agreement that was made between Arteta, Berta, and Kepa himself, where it was contractually agreed that he plays all games domestic cup wise. That's the only logic I can apply to this situation, because insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And he went into the same game with the same energy, saying, I trust my goalkeeper, everybody makes mistakes, la da 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 da. And we saw how that worked out, crashed out of the FA Cup. Now let's move on to the Champions League. This one is a bit controversial because it raises a lot of different questions with different people and different sections within the fan base. Now when I saw the lineup pre-kickoff, I wasn't mad at it at all. Timber, we knew, was going through a fitness test. He declared himself fit, and when we all saw the lineup and saw Mosquera started, we understood. Ben White's already out injured, so there's no alternative in the back on that right hand side other than Mosquera. Fine. Havertz starts again, fine. In a game where you're not going to see much of the ball, you need someone that can hold on to the ball and bring others into play. So again, understand why Kai Havertz started. Then there's Odegaard. You need someone in the midfield who can control the ball and have a bit of presence on it when we do have it, and also for his pressing qualities. Again, totally understand why he started. Now my issue was the actual in-game management. Mosquera had a great game against easily one of the top 3 left wingers in the world. Let's have it right. Kvaratskhelia, top quality player, someone I have wanted at Arsenal, but it would take a record fee to actually get him over to Arsenal now. So I feel that ship has sailed. Edu had his chance to get him in, he didn't. We move on. Mosquera, having a great game, gets a yellow card for something silly, taking too long with throw-ins, gets another warning after that yellow card, and I'm screaming at the TV, hook this guy off, hook this guy off. What happens? Maybe 5 to 10 minutes later, Kvaratskhelia burns him, cuts inside in the box. Mosquera commits the foul, gets the second yellow. Now my issue with Arteta here is, if I, as someone that is not a football qualified professional, can see that someone should be hooked off before it goes bad, why can this manager not see it? That is where my main qualms sat with the Champions League. I'm old enough to have already watched the Champions League 22 or something years ago now, and watched us go down to 10 men. So to go into another final 22 years later and repeat the same history, it's unforgivable. I'm sorry, it's unforgivable. So for me, that is another reason why he was marked down, Arteta. Timber came on, but again, the subs, no issues with them, but obviously you're being reactive rather than proactive at that point. Basically trying to save faces, as they say. Timber looked good going forward, going back. I understand now, after the fact, he actually had a groin injury, so that was why he didn't start. But I feel like there was a chance missed. And we cannot assume that we're just going to make the Champions League final next season. These chances come very few and far between, and you need to take them when they pop up. That goes for life in itself. But other than that, we lost. The players fought their hearts out. Arteta made the right subs after the red card, but the damage was done. Now we move on to the Premier League. Kudos to Arteta for getting it across the line. I said to my group chat, we had a bet on basically if Arteta won the league, which I said he wouldn't do, I'd get a new shirt with his name on and his old number on the back of a shirt. And as it transpired, that's what I had to do. I'm a man of my word. I bought a shirt with his name and a number on the back. I'm happy we got the title over the line. We made really hard work of it, to be honest. I don't feel like any of our rivals were really in the picture. People have tried to gaslight me with Aston Villa's unbeaten run. Remember, I had a season ticket for the season Unai was manager. So I've seen how this manager manages, and his unbeaten run with us ultimately led to nothing. So let's just stick to facts when we're saying these kind of things. And our rivals, United, Liverpool, City, Tottenham, Chelsea, none of them are really in the mix. Let's have it right here. Man City came back into the title race picture because of points we were dropping. Really, the league should have been wrapped up, I'd say, at least mid-March, April, start of April, max. How it got to be in towards the last game or second to last game, the penultimate game, is beyond me. But these things happen in the season. We go over the line. It is what it is. But I'm not having anybody try to tell me we beaten the best Man City side. Fun fact, Man City finished this season, the one just gone, on 77 points. Now the last time Man City finished with such a low points total was Pep Guardiola's first season. I repeat, his first season. Make of that what you will. We move on now to the physios. Now the physios. Let's cover this saga. So recently, I'd say about 2 to 3 weeks ago, we all heard the news that Dr. Zafar Iqbal was relieved of his duties as the head of our medical physio staff team. That's alarming, the amount of injuries we've actually had. And as a result, I think it was around February or March, I want to say off the top of my head, Arteta brought in one of his close esteemed colleagues, Joaquin Acedo, to perform an audit of the load management and how the players are being dealt with on a day-to-day basis. The news came as a shock regarding Zafar Iqbal being relieved of his duties. And yeah, we move on. All I can say is the physios, there's been a lot of load management, there's been a lack of squad rotation over the past, I'd say 3 to 4 seasons, bare minimum. And in-game management, managing the minutes of these players. I think that's been an issue and a factor that has led to a lot of these players breaking down. There are instances where these players have never had injuries and now they're all catching injuries at the same time. And that for me is a huge red flag as to how the squad rotation and the in-game management overall has been handled. So it's part of Arteta's role, but again, he's not a physio. He has these people in place to tell him what players are in the danger zone and what players are close and so forth, and it just hasn't worked out. So we're on the lookout for a new elite level head of medical physio staff member. So that's the bright light at the end of the tunnel. But other than that, the physios, I'd give them it's hard. A 6 out of 10. Just look at the amount of season-ending injuries we've actually had this season. Moreno, season-ending. Ben White, season-ending. Timber, season-ending. Kai Havertz, 2 seasons of season-ending injuries. He's returned from injury now and scored some important goals, but again, is he going to be the same Kai Havertz? He's bulked up, but I don't know if that's had an adverse effect on his body now breaking down. Who knows? I'm not the scientist. Gabriel Jesus, constantly injured throughout his time at this club. Quality player, but constantly injured. Calafiori, constantly injured. Incapi caught an injury in the earlier parts of the season and has been pretty solid since then. Gabriel. The list just goes on and on if we start breaking down the amount of injuries we've had in this squad over the course of this season and the previous season. So for the physio team, as I said, it's got to be a standard 6 out of 10, and we move on. We've covered all the backroom staff, the manager and the directors, owners, so forth. Now let's jump into it with the players, the goalkeepers. Raya, what can I say about this guy? 10 out of 10, outstanding, elite, world class, from the saves to his feet and the ball distribution. There's not a bad thing I can say about this guy. The season prior to when he arrived, I spoke about him with the Arsenal group chat, and I said he would make a solid number 2 and give Ramsdale competition. Not only has he gone on to surpass my expectations of him, He's eclipsed them. There's nothing else I can really say about this guy. I can keep it real short and sweet and just say, yeah, 10 out of 10. Week in, week out. Kepa. I spoke to the group chat at the start of the window, and I wasn't happy with two of the signings. I understood them, but I was not happy with them. One of them was Norgard, and the other is Kepa, who I'm now talking about. Kepa. I have to give him a standard 6 out of 10. I want to give him 7 for getting us to the final, but then you almost ruined our entire season. From then on, we started dropping points in the league, crashing out of the FA Cup. So I'm sorry, it has to be a standard 6 out of 10. His error in that Carabao Cup could have completely derailed our season, and it almost did. So for that for me was unforgivable, and yeah, that's all I can really say on this guy. Me personally, I'd move him on. I'd promote Tommy Setford, or get in a quality number 2 that will push Raya for that number 1 jersey. Other than that, we move on. Let's look into the right wing backs. I'll start off with Jurrien Timber. So happy with this signing. I reside in the Netherlands, so I watch a lot of Eredivisie, and I was a big advocate for the signing of Timber. He's had a bit of an up and down journey regarding injuries, but this season he's been phenomenal. 8 out of 10 overall. It's just a shame he wasn't there for the Champions League final, because I believe that changes everything in regards to how that game would have turned out. And maybe if we brought him on sooner in that game, or we started him in that game, then brought Mosquera in as a second half substitute, there's so many things we could have done differently, but again, it's hindsight. It's all shoulda, coulda, woulda. Now Benjamin White, love him. Benny Blanco, here from the very start of things. Unfortunately for this season, I have to give him a 6 out of 10, just because of his lack of fitness overall, and the injuries now starting to tell an unfortunate story. Saliba, William Saliba, what can I say about him? He's a world-class defender. He's come on leaps and bounds. I always thought he had potential, but there were elements of his game where he was still getting caught out at the back over the course of his loans, and I was seriously worried that might be a thing moving forward, but he's totally erased those doubts for me. He's easily a part of the best defensive partnership we actually have in this Premier League, and that's all bias aside. I don't think any other team has a back to that can chat to Saliba or Gabriel, to be honest. So yeah, for Saliba, solid 9 out of 10 season. I can't really say too much about you, sir. Now let's move on to Gabriel. 10 out of 10, sir. He's easily become one of my favourite players in this team. Stalwart, battler, can play as well. He's a hell of a baller. He's everything I look for in a centre-back. Just rugged, dirty, lives to block shots, stop goals. Everything about him screams he loves defending, and I love to see that in my defenders. But yes, solid 10 out of 10 over the course of this season. I don't hold anything against him regarding the Champions League miss. At the end of the day, he shouldn't have been stepping up, but because he's such a leader and that's what he has in his heart, he stepped up, and unfortunately it didn't work out, but I'm not going to hold that against him. So as I said, 10 out of 10. Mosquera, I'd give him a solid 8 out of 10. It's his first season, he's 19 years old, arrived for 13 million, absolute steal in my opinion, for how this season has turned out and the positions I've seen him have to play in on the right wing, where he's not actually suited to be a wing back. He's a CB by trade, but he's put in a job on the right wing spot. He kept Kvaratskhelia quiet for the majority of that game as someone playing out of position. I can only hope for better things for him, to be honest. Silly mistake to make in the Champions League with the second yellow, but you know what? He's 19. I expect people to make mistakes. Sometimes you make them on the grandest of stages. It is what it is. We move on. 8 out of 10 Mosquera. Let's get into the performances of the left wing backs. Calafiori, fantastic player on his day, but his day is few and far between with the amount of injuries he's always having. Anybody that knows me, I give every player the grace of their first season to adapt, to adjust to the league, have injuries, have dips in form, up and down. Get it all out your system in that first season. But see the second season, that's when I'm looking at you very critically. And Calafiori, he's a quality player. There's no left wing back like him. I look at Alphonso Davies and Nuno Mendes. They can't do what Calafiori is doing. Nowhere near. But the problem with Calafiori is the amount of injuries he's having. Can he play 5 games in a row? Because I'm not sure he can. So that for me is an issue. This summer, I don't think he's going anywhere. The clubs he would have gone to seem to have recruited elsewhere. So he's got one more season for me to get his act together, or he needs to be shipped out. This is not a massage parlor. I want my players to be readily available for at least 90% of the games that are played, and he's not even making 50% of them. So for me, that's a huge issue. So availability is the best ability, as they say. 7 out of 10 for Calafiori. We move on to Hincapi. Hincapi, 8 out of 10 season. Solid overall, part of the Invincibles with Leverkusen and Xabi Alonso. So I'm not surprised how he's come in. I watched a bit of that season as well when they won that title, and he's immense. He's another South American in that defense, playing with passion, pride, heart, desire, all of that. Everything I want in a defender. No matter where he starts, whether it's left CB or it's left wing back, I know he's always going to give his all. And he did over the course of the season. Only thing I can say is I don't want to see your bum out next season, fella. Zubamendi. I'll give him a 7 out of 10. I won't be too harsh on him. I've looked at the data and broken it down. He's played an exhausting amount of minutes in his first season within the Premier League. Remember, this is one of the fastest leagues in the world. And he's come here. He was killing it for the first half of the season, and then the second half, I'd say he started tailing off. But his legs were gone. He was ropey, and it is what it is. I think he's a good player. I still think there's something good in there, and I just hope to see more next season. Just rest up, let Rodri play his heart out at the World Cup. You can take some reserve minutes, and let's keep it at that. I want all of our players to be as fresh as possible for next season to perform this back-to-back title defense. What can I say about Martin Odegaard? Captain fantastic. Not for me, guys. I'm sorry. 6 out of 10 season. Moreno, 6 out of 10 season. There's not really much I can give him. He's missed half of it. Norgard, the best I can give him is 6 out of 10 for this season. Solid performances when they have been asked of him, whether it's Carabao Cup or FA Cup or stepping up in the league where there's injuries or so forth, but he hasn't seen enough of the pitch for me to give him anything more than 6 out of 10. and getting us to the final, to be honest. Now let's move on to Hale End Academy. Another product made it to the first team. Miles Lewis Skelly, MLS. And I'm not talking about the league in America. What can I say about Miles? He's everything I like about a player, especially Arsenal born and bred. We had to bring him in towards the course of the end of the season due to Zubamendi's dip in form, and he was tired. That's all I can say is he was tired and playing lethargically, and I understand he's played an exceptional amount of minutes more than he's ever played in his career, so I can't hold that against Zubamendi. All I can say for MLS, it was a solid 7 out of 10, I would say, season. Let's move on to the 10s, the creative midfielders. Eze, I'll give him a 7 out of 10. Overall, had a good season, scored a banger in the Champions League. I think he actually won the award as the best goal in the Champions League. Absolutely annihilated Spurs in both games, scored 5 in total, hat-trick in the first, 2 goals in the second. Derby, he's endeared himself to the fans, but he needs to treat every game like it's a Tottenham game. Max Dowman, the child prodigy, 16 years old, and he looks like he could go on to be a world beater. Unfortunately, I can only give him 6 out of 10 this season. Bukayo Saka, Starboy, Chile, all of that. What can I say about him? He's carried this team on his back for about 3 to 4 seasons now with no competition. This is the first season he's actually had competition that's genuinely rotated in for him. And that's only really as a result of his injuries, to be honest. I think if Saka's fully fit and isn't injured, Noni probably doesn't see much of the pitch. So for me, I have to give Saka a standard 7. Noni Madueke had a few decent performances, some where he changed the game single-handedly, some where he didn't impact the game at all. All I can do for Noni is give him a standard 6. Let's move on to the strikers, the number 9s. Let's start off with Gyökeres, Victor. Yeah, he did his job today. He did his job over the course of the season. What can I say? 8 out of 10 I'll give him. We move on to Kai Havertz, the player we signed to replace Xhaka, who couldn't actually play there, couldn't really do the cam role, so we moved him up front when we had an injury and got a bit of joy and success out of him, and now he's up front. He's a new number 9. He's more of a support striker, but he's been playing the false 9 role. This season, didn't really see much of him due to the injury. Again, as I said, I always give them grace for 1 season of injuries, but it's been 2 now, and he returned, scored some important goals, scored the Champions League goal, but I feel like it might be time to move him on. I have to give him a 7 out of 10. Gabriel Jesus, 5 out of 10, sir. You're the only one I've given 5 out of 10 in this squad. We move on to the left wingers, Leandro Trossard. Again, things I've said earlier in the videos. Great player, great servant, clutch moments, shoots when nobody else wants to shoot because we're too busy tap dancing around the 6-yard box and nonsense like that. He'll hit the ball when it needs to be hit, and that's what I like about Leandro Trossard. He takes the shots that you're supposed to take. You know when they say you always miss the shots you don't take? I can't say that for Trossard. He shoots. He might not score all the time, but he shoots, and that's what's more important. 6 out of 10 season for him. And last but not least, Gabriel Martinelli. This guy is the conundrum of this entire player review. What do we do with Gabriel Martinelli, guys? Do we keep him? Do we sell him? What do we do? Personally, I'm 50-50 between the two. I think he's still young. He's 24, going on 25. He's still a baby in terms of footballing terms. But I don't think he's a left winger. I just don't feel he's a left winger. The best performances we've had from Martinelli was the 22-23 season on the left wing when Arteta was playing the craziest attacking football but nothing in defence. Now we've gone ultra defensive and Gabriel Martinelli is doing more defending than he is attacking. So for that reason, I can only give him a 6 out of 10. Again, had clutch moment against City earlier in the season when Eze lobbed the ball over the top and he ran onto it and finished. That is classic Gabriel Martinelli, but we just don't see it enough because he's been given way too many defensive duties. So my issue now is, do we keep him, do we sell him? If we keep him, personally, I move him into the number 9 role and he can give Gyökeres competition for his space, because I believe Martinelli is an out-and-out 9 and always has been, but he's just been played out of position. Just like when we saw Aubameyang, one of the most clinical number 9s out there on the left wing. Why, sir? But yeah, anyway, I digress. And if we do sell him, I believe he could come back to haunt us. I believe he's one of those players where he'll go to the next club, and he'd absolutely shine. He will absolutely shine. So yeah, I really don't know what else to say, to be honest. That's it. That's the end of the season review. So all I can say now is let me know what you agree on, let me know what you disagree on. Just leave it all in the comments. Like, share, comment, subscribe, pass it to your family, your friends, your brethrens, and I'll catch you next time. Laters.